In topic 8 of chapter 1, we're going to be dealing with now properties of real numbers. And you recall this from your high school algebra classes. They always spent time on this in saying, what are the rules that allow us to do various things in mathematics? Well, that's what we're going to look at here. These are the properties. And one of the ones you might remember is the commutative property. Another, the associative property. The distributive property. Identity. And inverse property. So all of these, to some degree, will need to become part of your vocabulary. So we'll have to know what these words mean, and through practice, and as you do your practice and quiz me to gain mastery, you'll get a handle for these. Okay, use the commutative property for addition or multiplication to complete each statement. Well, again, in your textbook, they would describe what the commutative property is. If we have a value A and we add it to B, we're saying that if we reverse this, put the B first and add it to A, that these are equal. Or if we have A times B, and we then say B times A, just reversing the order, switching them around, that these are equal. This is the commutative property of addition, the commutative property of multiplication. So keeping this in mind, we then get to practice it. So in your booklets, again, you can kind of pause the tape and work these if you like, or watch as we do it. This will be y plus 3. We're just switching the order. This will be negative 9 plus a. This will be x. Now notice here, I'm going to need a parenthesis because no sign between them indicates multiplication. And here's just TS. I usually use the cursive form of S because otherwise it tends to look like a 5. Okay, let's clear this. And now how about the associative property? Well, we have A plus B plus C equals A plus B plus C. You would all agree that these are the same on both sides. But in the associative property, we're going to put a parenthesis here on this side, and over here we're going to put the parenthesis there. So what is this saying to do? Well, you do this first, and then you add the C. And on this side, you're doing this first, and then you're adding the A. And this is true, and the principle for this is the associative principle. So keep in mind that in the associative principle, the order is the same. It's just the grouping that is different. So here the order will be the same. 3 plus x plus y. But we'll put the parenthesis there. And again, the same thing. Negative 2 times 5 times x. The order is the same, but now we're going to group it this way. Okay? The order is the same, just different groupings. Now, in this next case, they're asking us to use these rules to simplify. So basically, and we do this, by the way, all the time, we're going to add these two right here. So this will be 16 plus x. And we're going to do this here. This will be a negative 35x. And for this one, what we're going to do is take the negative 1/3 and then kind of switch these around here, and a plus 5/12, and we have a plus x out there. Now to simplify this, we have to get a common denominator again, which is 12. 3 times 4 is 12, so this becomes a negative 1 times 4, negative 4. So this becomes 1/12 plus x. Okay, another major rule that we have is the distributive property. We're going to use this a lot throughout our algebra courses. And that says basically if you have A times B plus C in parentheses, you just distribute the A by multiplying it to each part. So this becomes an AB, this becomes an AC. We have distributed that. Now since there's letters, we can't actually do the multiplication. Down here in some cases we will be doing it. Okay, so write the expression without parentheses, then simplify the results. Well, what they're asking you to do here is go 8 times x plus 8 times y. And simplifying that is just going to be 8x plus 8y. We have distributed that. Here we have to be careful of the sign. So this sign will be negative when we multiply, and this next one will be positive. So this is going to be a negative 21x, a positive 27. And again, being careful of the signs. This will be a positive 12y, and this will be a positive 20. Now this is 3 terms within the parenthesis, so just going to multiply each of the terms by 6. This is going to be 24x minus 18y and this will be a negative 54. And it never hurts to check your work and checking your signs. Okay. Now here they distributed apparently a 6 and write each sum as a product. By the way, I didn't do this middle step up here. I just did the distribution. I think they wanted you to do this to indicate what is being done here. Okay, but we already simplified. Okay, so this is going to be 6x plus 6y. This is going to be 13x plus 4 times 3 is 12. This looks like it's 52. There are 13 cards in a suit, and there's 4 suits in a deck, and it's 52 cards in a deck. So there you go. So this would be a negative 2x, and this will be a negative 2y. We don't usually put that extra plus there. And here it's going to be 1/3 a. But notice now it's 1/3 of 6. This could be thought of as over 1. 3 goes into there once, goes into there twice. This will be a plus 2. So if you're multiplying fractions, keep in mind they want you to simplify. Okay, continuing as we wrap up this last topic in Chapter 1. Name the property that is illustrated. Well, they didn't give us some of the properties that they spoke of above, but I guess they are in your textbook, and they wanted you to do maybe a little research here. Well, let's go over some of the properties first. If we have 5 and we add a 0 to that, that is still going to be a 5. So adding a 0 to anything does not change its value. This is called the identity property of addition. Adding a 0 doesn't change it. Now if you have a 5 and you multiply the 5 by a 1, and we've used this a lot in this chapter, you can multiply any number by 1 and not change its value. So this is the identity property of multiplication. We can multiply anything by 1 and not change its value. That was the skill we used in making equivalent fractions, multiplying it by 1, but we chose different forms of 1. 2 over 2, 3 over 3, 12 over 12, and that's the identity property of multiplication. Identity property of addition. Okay, another one too is this inverse. What's the inverse of something? Well, we said that if we had a 5 over 1 and you wanted it to be a 1, the inverse of 5 over 1 is 1 over 5. And you might say, oh, that's called the reciprocal. Yes, the reciprocal and the inverse is the same. Okay, so now that we had these properties, what is this one? Identity of addition. We can add 0 to anything and not change its value. What is this one? This is the inverse property. Multiplying a number by its inverse gives you a 1. So its inverse is the reciprocal. And this one we had in an earlier section, and I didn't review it, but see if you can come up with what this is. This is the rule or the principle of opposites. When we add an opposite to a number, the sum is 0. Okay? And I'm kind of surprised they didn't go over this, but again, this is meant to be a little review of things you've read in your textbook. And then lastly, we did go over this right over here. What is this? We call this the property of the identity of multiplication, that you can multiply anything by 1 and it stays the same. Okay, many students use the property of real numbers without realizing that's true. And when you use the distributive property, don't forget to multiply every term in the parenthesis. Okay, well, you'll be having a test on Chapter 1. Hopefully you're getting your mastery points through practice and doing the quiz bees. And good luck on your test.